Okay, welcome everybody. Today's Friday, or no, not Friday. Today's Thursday, August 8th, and we're going to start with the NASDAQ E-mini futures just to see where things are going. And I have my log scale chart pulled up here, and I can show you that so far it's just been a successful backtest of this ARK. It's been a successful backtest of this higher low right here. If I zoom in a little bit more, you can see that more clearly. And it's following the market symmetry still perfectly. And I wanted just to point this out because it looks like it was maybe a previous resistance now flipped to a support. And essentially it could come back down to maybe test this lower arc if this ever got lost. So that could be a possibility to retest this zone. But so far, we're just going to take it one level at a time. And so far, this is just a normal backtest of a previous support. So I don't see any reason for alarm here. I think things are going quite normally. And this is just what markets do after some support levels up top break, because you can see with the Ichimoku, right, those broke, right? The baseline up here broke since basically back here in October of 2023. And that's what happens when one support level breaks, it just goes to find the next support level. And that's exactly what's happening with the NASDAQ E-mini futures right now. It's just trying to find that new support level. And it looks like so far, based off of this weekly candle, I mean, still has another day after today before the weekly candle closes, but it'll give us a good idea what happens next, right? If the weekly candle closes like this, or maybe even green or higher, then that'll be a good indicator that things are probably, like, this is probably going to be the low. But if like today and tomorrow close a little bit lower, then that could be an indication that possibly it wants to go lower. So we'll see how this week closes. But so far, everything is going according to plan and nothing really to worry about at all. So let's go back to the linear scale on this one. Let's see if I have that. No, I don't. But essentially, here on log scale, the same situation. I don't have the GAN pulled up. I think I got rid of it, but that's fine because it's doing the same situation as the NASDAQ, right? The E-mini and NASDAQ futures. And that is basically it lost the baseline as a support and it went down to find some more support down there. So it depends on where the weekly candle closes for the S&P mini futures right here. So could be closing back above that baseline. We don't know, right? So we're going to keep an eye on this level. But so far, that 53.28 is going to be some resistance. And we'll see if we can close back above it this week. But if not, there'll probably be more consolidation in the future. So it's just doing the same thing as the NASDAQ's doing. Good morning, guys. So yeah, Ripple versus SEC is over. That is correct. And since we're talking about XRP, I can just pull it up real quick just to show you guys what's going on. A clear picture of it is basically right here. So we know that that was support, right? That was support 100%. And because of this, bottom arc has held. And now essentially what we're seeing is price is back into the cloud here. And because it's back into the cloud, this is a resistance zone. And since it's a resistance zone, it's got to break it for me to get really bullish on it. And to me, it's just more proof that the technicals matter more than any news narrative. Because look, it just went right back to resistance after the judge released that statement, and the lawsuit is basically over, right? They just paid a settlement charge, and that's it. So this is more proof that things just are more technical than anything else because it can't break the resistance yet. And right now, the top of the cloud sits at around 65 cents. And then the top of the ARK sits around maybe 68 cents. So essentially, it's just waiting to break this resistance before things can really catch fire and keep going higher and higher for XRP. But the good news is the cloud is getting thinner here. So if the price action can continue, the cloud will then again flip green like we've seen in the past. And then if that happens, it has a better chance to continue above this. But I think things can get really exciting once that ARK, like I've said many times, once it gets flipped to a support, then things can get really exciting and take off to the top side. So I think we just got to be patient, wait on that. Yeah. Do they have to pay? They have 60 days to appeal. Yeah. I mean, what are they going to do really? The judge is basically not in the SEC's favor. So who knows what they're really going to do. So I wouldn't really worry too much about that. Let's see Tesla here. So here's the Tesla large scale chart. And yeah, basically it's doing what I mentioned in the live stream that I had on with Cantonese Cat and the Tesla tracker, just saying that like on a daily chart, basically it's just retesting support over and over and over again, right? That's all it's essentially doing. This GAN doesn't really match on the daily chart. It's mainly built for the weekly chart, so just ignore the lines. But you can see like up here in the 270s, it did the same thing, right? That it was trying to break resistance and fake people out over and over again, but it didn't. So now it's probably going to do the same thing, try to fake people out until it goes, finds its support, and then builds its way higher and higher. So I think just got to be patient with that one. Good morning, Jules. So yeah, just it's doing what I'm expecting it to do, and essentially what I'd really like to see still is going back here on the linear scale chart. I'd like to really see it close the week back above that halfway point between the 382 and the 236, above that 198.43. That's what I'd really like to see, but you can see the resistance above now since it lost the baseline, it lost the 309. Essentially, I think that's where it's going to run into some problems around the 200 zone. So we're going to just keep an eye on that. And if it can close the week back above it, that'll be great. If not, there is a possibility to continue to roll over back down to the 236 now because it's losing this as a support, right? So just going to watch this for the weekly close, 198.43. That's the direction I'm going. So we'll see. Just got to be patient. Just a few more days left in the trading week. And what else have we got going on here? So what's the QQQ up? Yeah, it's up $5 right now, pre-market. So just based off of this on the linear scale, where's the $5? The pre-market is right back at the ARK, right? So that's right back at a resistance again. So do I want to get excited at the market open? Not really yet, because you can see in the past where the QQQ sits right here that it was a resistance here, then it tried to make it a support, but now it's still a resistance again. So essentially, I want to see a week close back above it. So if the momentum can continue and continue higher and higher, then I'll be more and more bullish. But if price stays around the 440 zone or a little bit lower for the rest of the week, then I cannot really get that bullish yet because price could easily just roll over and go back to test the bottom of the cloud in the low 400s, right? So that is going to be a possibility. So we cannot ignore that. And just again, we have to wait and see where the weekly candle is going to close on the QQQ. So if it did roll over down here, is that still a bearish thing? No, because it's just a successful backtest of that cloud, which it really hasn't done since it broke out, right? It broke out here in May 2023 on the weekly chart. It never touched the cloud ever since. So touching it for the first time ever would not be a bad idea. It would not be a bearish situation at all. Let's go check out some more here. We'll look at Nvidia. That is up 174 pre-market. You can see it's still below a lot of things as well. It's back at 100, but it's still below the baseline of 103, and it's still above support over here. So it's just doing exactly what it's supposed to doing, just in a range because this support broke, right? So once this support broke, it went to find a new support, which it did, but now it's just stuck in a range between that new support and this resistance up here. So again, nothing too exciting yet, just because it's still stuck in a range. Let me go check out SMCI. That's been taking a beating. Yeah, it's still down 4. So it's looking more and more likely to me that price wants to go down and touch this 370 level. That's what I think for SMCI. It looks like it's going to be a lot more pain unless like today and tomorrow can close back above here. But I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. But it is a very volatile stock. So we're going to keep an eye on that. So that is my target for now is the 370s, maybe even a little bit below. But this is still high time frame, still a very bullish chart because it's just making a higher low from here, right? Wherever this higher low is going to end up, it's just a higher low from here. So even though this pain looks really bad, but in the grand scheme of things, it still is just following the symmetry perfectly, and it still just needs to find that higher low. Let's see here. We can look at CrowdStrike. We haven't seen that in a couple days. Let's see where it's at. Yeah, it's up $5 pre-market. And this is kind of following the same symmetry too. But since it's back in the cloud, it might not get back down to this angle now, right? But if it does start to close candles below that cloud, then it can go retest this angle again into the 180s, right? So got to watch this carefully because this cloud, I think, is really important as a support. And if it does hold, then there's a possibility to go back up and get back to the ARK in the 250s and possibly even get back up to the baseline in the 300s too. So just going to see if it can close above that level right there. And that's about 225, right? So if it can close above 225, then I think that could be the bottom for now. And price can gravitate higher and higher. So just going to keep an eye on CrowdStrike as well. Let's see here. Where else? Let's see. I think I was going to, yeah, Palantir. Palantir is up 3.5%. Pretty nice for a pre-market move right now. I'm going to do the log scale chart for Palantir because I like that a little bit better. Yeah, so here's the log scale chart. And right now it's still like stuck in a range, just like everything else. Even though it had a great move up, it's still stuck between the support down here, maybe 24.50, and the resistance that sits up here, maybe around $30, right? So this is essentially nothing's gonna exciting's gonna happen until it can break above that 30 level, basically above this previous high, and then continue up to this arc up here into the 35. So that's right now the range is between 24.50 and 30. And if it can break above, then I think it has a great chance of 35 and possibly even 40 up here above as well. So still, this chart looks really good. Lots of higher lows, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. So this is a great chart for market structure. And essentially, I want to see it break 30. That's what I'm looking out for. Let's check out AMD. Haven't checked on that for a while. So yeah, it lost that support there. But where is the monthly Ichimoku? I'm curious with that. Yeah, okay, so the monthly Ichimoku, it's losing that monthly support as well. I mean, there's still 22 days left where it could come back and close above, but essentially this is maybe going in the direction of retesting the top of the cloud, possibly around 113, 112, like it did down here before, you can see. So it could be doing it again on a monthly basis, right? So since these are monthly candles, they could take some time to play out. All right. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat here. But yeah, one last thing on AMD. So on a monthly basis, 140 is resistance and 113 is going to be, or maybe like 110, we'll say, is going to be support. So it's kind of a big range right now and nothing too exciting at the moment. Let's look at Sofi. Haven't seen that one in a while. So I think SoFi found its support really. Like it went to the next angle below and it held, and now it's going up in the pre-market. So I think any kind of back test down to the low sixes again could be an opportunity for a push back towards resistance. So I think a lot of the pain is mostly over, and it looks like this is the low that it was looking for, and it's still a higher low from here, and from here a series of higher lows, right? And now what we're seeing is a retrace back up to resistance, and that retrace back up to resistance could be around $7, right? So again, right now it's just in a range. It found its temporary support, and we know where resistance is. So now let's go look at some miners. I know you guys like to look at the miners, so let's take a look at CLSK. So yeah, on a weekly basis, this is getting back into the cloud, right? So this is okay, right? That means possibly this $7, $8 won't get hit because this is maintaining a support, which means there is a possibility for price to continue back up to the 13 zone, right? To maybe 1360 or the baseline around $15 as well. So this is a good sign that this cloud is holding as a support. And if you look back, since it broke out here in November of 2023, it has not successfully tested the cloud until now, right? So this is a good sign that there could be some positive price action back up to the resistance up here. All right, and let me take a look at Mara real quick. And Mara looks a little bit worse because it lost the angle, it lost the cloud, and it is below everything. And if you look here, the leading span A is pointing down, so that could be a bearish cross soon. So I think the target here could be the low 11s possibly, but we'll see how this week closes. If it can close back up here within the cloud, that could be a bullish thing. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on this, but there's really just a lot of resistance here. There's not much support at the current price. So if you look to the left, you can see that there's resistance with these candles here, and this was support, right? So now it's flipping to a resistance. So it could roll over and go down. All right, I see a request for DGHI. Digihost. Okay, that one looked like it went back to test a previous low right here. And it held, so that would be the opportunity down here at the 85 cents. And now it's back above $1. But you can see this was a previous support zone right here with these candles right here. That was a previous support zone, but now it's looking to flip to resistance, especially with the conversion line right there. So we know this is probably support down here in the 85s, but now it's approaching resistance from about maybe $1.15 all the way up to maybe $1.30 is going to be a resistance zone. Let's see, IEP. ICAN Enterprise. All right, so this one, it's up 4 cents, and let's zoom out here. Yeah, this is in a big downtrend right now. Big downtrend. There's really nothing I like about this IEP at all. Like it can't really break above the conversion or the baseline. Essentially, it tried right here. It tried right here to get back above, but then it failed, and now it's below everything again, right? And because it's below everything again, then it's going to be a lot of resistance above, starting with that 1673, then to the bottom of the cloud and the baseline right here. So maybe it's finding a base here, right? Because from here, this is a higher low and maybe a higher low. But just looking at the overall market structure, it cannot make a higher high, right? It keeps on making lower highs. So until it makes like a higher high from maybe here, I can't really get too excited about it. So this is just kind of like catching a falling knife, really, is the way I see it. Shack. Yeah, Shake Shack. It's one of those charts that look pretty good. It almost came back to test the bottom of the cloud. It held it as support. And if you look why it really held it as support, it's mainly because of this level right here, right? You can see that these candles right here was just a successful back test of these candles here. So basically, that held perfectly. Now it's back above the baseline and the conversion line. But essentially, I would just say it's bullish, right? But we can see where the resistance is going to be because from here and here, this is an obvious top, right? So as price gets closer and closer to the 100s, maybe 110s or so, that's going to be some resistance for Shake Shack because it was previously rejected multiple times. So that's still in a range. It's above support right now, but getting closer and closer to the resistance up above. Yeah, so monster dividend for IUP, ZCAT. Yeah, when something has a big dividend, it's kind of a red flag because they're trying to attract investors on something and they could cut that anytime they want. And if they ever did cut it, then possibly things would crash, right? So I would not be bullish about having a monster dividend. I would be more bearish about it because it's just more risky, right? AAP, Advanced Auto Parts. Yeah, so this one, let me pull up the moving averages just to see. Yeah, so it got rejected by the 50 so many times, and now it's losing the cloud again. So it tried to go into the cloud here, but then it started losing all these levels one at a time. So what does that really mean? Well, it really means to me that these candles here was a support zone right here, right? You can see from here to here, right? That was a support zone. And then what do you see? Well, price started closing candles underneath it, then flipped it to resistance. So now this support zone is now resistance. So what does that mean for me? It means that price probably wants to go back and retest the lows into the lower 50s. That's what it really means to me. Because I don't see it breaking above the cloud anytime soon again, or breaking into the cloud, I should say, simply because there's so much resistance there now with the conversion line, the 50, and the leading span A, the bottom of the cloud, lots of resistance. So I think it just is going to trend lower until maybe it finds a new higher low, wherever that's going to be. And then now that we see the cloud is thinner and thinner here, then it has a possibility to try to break it over here above. So this one probably got to wait a little bit longer and see if it does drift a little bit lower. Let's see. Schwab. Yeah, so Schwab is under a lot of resistance now. You can see that giant bearish engulfing candle here. It was down 17.64% for that week. And that lost all support, right? It was doing very well. And then straight through it, cut through it like butter. And now it's even on the bottom side of the cloud. So this one, I don't really like it. It's a previous support zone right here that got flipped to resistance. So every time it comes back up to maybe 65, 66, 67, whatever, it's probably going to run into a lot of resistance and struggle, right? And now it might even struggle with the cloud too and just continue lower as well. And maybe even retest these lows here because this is maybe, yeah, this is a big demand zone here. If you look with that, so that could be the target, right? From maybe like $52 down to maybe 48. But that is if this can't get back above the cloud. Like if price does close the week back above the cloud, then it could just consolidate on top of it and can continue higher. So this is why I like to wait until weekly closes just to see where price closes, because if it just stays around here, then the possibility of drifting lower increases greater and greater. Let's see. The market's going to open in 4 minutes. So let's go take a look at where things are sitting. Yeah, so the QQQ is up 6 now. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, and you can see the QQQ almost touched that 50-week moving average as well. And the biggest resistance for the QQQ is going to be the 458 to the 463 level right there. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. What's Tesla at pre-market now? Yeah, it's up at 195, but still, my Tesla level, you guys know it. It's 198. Yeah, right here. It's basically that 309, the halfway fib between the 382 and the 236. I want to see it close back above that 198.43 for the week for tomorrow. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. But either way, it looks like this low or even a little bit lower is going to be support. So I'm not too bearish on Tesla at all. I think these lows that we're seeing are going to hold. And if you even go back to the daily chart, you can see that it's still not making lower lows from here. And on the daily chart, it's still within the cloud as well for Tesla. And if it ever started to get below the cloud here, then I would kind of worry. But it looks like it's going to open today right here, right? And that's going to be above the cloud, the bottom of the cloud. And that could continue higher and higher to the daily conversion line, which it sits at 208, right? So there is some room to continue a lot higher for Tesla if it just follows this cloud up. So that'll be a good indicator. Yeah, I can take a look at coin for sure. So coin, it did what I made a video about a warning for BTC for Bitcoin, and I included coin in that video like over a month ago. And I said, if it lost that 50% fib, which it was holding above right here, then it would probably go back to the 382. And that's sure enough, that's what it did. And it's just hovering around that 183 zone. So I really think this is a good support zone. So if it comes back to 183 or a little bit below, or price is at 185 now. So it's essentially, it's a pretty good support zone. And let me just get rid of this Ichimoku here. And if you just go draw a line or a box here all the way across, you can see these candles right here. It's just like a back test. Sure, it did wick below a lot, but it just back tested these bottom candles right here. So essentially, this was just one giant demand zone, really, if you think of it that way. And this is a really good, in my opinion, it's a pretty good buy zone. So I like it here. I like it a lot, which is kind of an indicator that maybe Bitcoin has bottomed as well, too. So it looks really good for a possible continuation back up higher to the 50%. But we got to take notice that this zone right here, this was previous support, right? You can see all these candles right here, a previous support zone, and it lost it right here. So essentially, every time it comes back up here, it could be some resistance on its way back up to the 50%. So it could take some time, right? And if we even put on the SMAs as well, you can see that another reason why it is holding these levels is because the 200-day moving average is right there, but it's still currently below, and the market just opened, yeah. So I'd like to see more days close above this 200, and that would just lead it back into this resistance zone up here. And once it can break that zone, then there's a lot of confluence that the 50% level is also going to be more resistance as well. So it's just in a big range now, but I do really like it above that 382, or right around that 382, I should say. And MicroStrategy, let's go take a look at that. So it's a split, right? I need to create a new GAN for that because it's split. But essentially, just using the daily chart, you can see it's in a range, right? Held the 200-day perfectly, and right in the middle now. So this is support down here at 106, and resistance up here is 147, maybe 150, 151. That's going to be your resistance. And even if you put on the Ichimoku for the daily, you can see it's below the cloud. So that's going to be more resistance before it even gets up here, right? So we can see from maybe 137 all the way up to 150. That's going to be some resistance for MicroStrategy. But I like how support held perfectly. And if you look, it's the first time it tested that 200-day moving average in a long time, right? It didn't even touch it here, but the first time since it really broke out in March of 2023. So that's a really bullish, successful backtest there for MicroStrategy for possible continuation higher. So I do like that on the daily chart. And we'll go to IREN. So on the weekly chart for IREN, it held weekly support very nicely, right? And you can see that that's the 50-week, that's the top of the ARK, that's the conversion line. So that was a great buy opportunity for IREN. And sure enough, if you bought down there, it's been playing out well. But if you go to the daily chart now, where is resistance now for IREN? Well, it's going to be right up here around 8, maybe 830, 825. That's going to be the resistance. So it does have some room to go. Maybe the rest of today, maybe the rest of the week. So I do like that, but it could come back to retest the 200 first before it wants to move higher, right? So we gotta watch that. Good morning, Cecilia and Cipher. So Cipher on the daily chart is looking this kind of the same thing, right? It might want to come back and test the 200, and if it holds, then it can come back up and go towards resistance. But almost all the miners now look to be like they're in a range between a support and a resistance on a daily time frame. But if I switch it to the week here, the week held, right? The week held beautifully as support right here, which is the 50-week and even the bottom of the cloud, right? So I can see price over the longer term drift higher and higher to back to the $5. But when we go back to that daily chart, you can see exactly what's happening, that it's just stuck in a tight range. And yeah, it's the tight range is what, 380 up to 450. So, I mean, that's a big percentage move, but still for the miners, that is a pretty tight range. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the markets now. So Meta's up 2%, Apple's up 1%, Amazon 1%, Nvidia 2, Tesla 194. Let's take a look at ARKK. So weekly chart, it's still under some resistance of an angle right here. It's really disappointing to see this weekly candle because I was getting really bullish on it right up here, but then this giant candle just closed below all these levels and even lost the 100 weeks. So that's just going to be resistance on the way back up, right? So it's kind of disappointing to see that. But the good news is this is still a higher low from here, higher low from here. So it's still not too bad. And on the monthly chart here, you can see when we add on the Ichimoku. Yeah, there we go. The Ichimoku for the monthly chart, the conversion line or the baseline does sit at 41.98. So there's still 22 days left in the month. So this just could turn into one giant wick and close back above all of this, right? So if that were to happen, then I would be really bullish. So, but I got to wait till the end of August to really figure this one out. Vintage Lee, Buyong Xie. Let's see. What else we got here? Yeah, ARKG, Google. Yeah, so everything is pretty normal, but I'm just going to show you this. I'm going to go back to the linear scale for QQQ because I like that one the most. And taking off all the indicators. Like, You can see exactly what's happening here just based off the market symmetry. It's at resistance without using any indicators right now. So I want to see it close the week above here. Like if this fails though, then a lot of things next week might continue lower. So this is something that you guys got to pay attention to, because again, previous resistance tried to be support. Now it's resistance again, right? So essentially this is the level right here at 440. I want it to break above. I want it to get to like 441, 442. And if you go back to the Ichimoku, then you can see that even the baseline up here, 458, is going to be some resistance, but that's fine. I just want it to close above this resistance first, and then we'll worry about this resistance later. So this is something that the markets need to pay attention to. I don't get excited at resistance, and it's at resistance right now. So let's see if it can break today and tomorrow going into the weekly close. And let's look at the SPX here. Yeah, the SPX, it hit the wall of resistance, but it held support right now. So it's still in a range too, right? And if we go to, we can just ignore that. Yeah, you can see it's approaching resistance as well. The SPX baseline is at 42.94, or sorry, 52.94. So it has room to continue higher, but still it could get rejected and close the week below that, which leads the possibility to maybe rolling over a little bit more. So again, it's getting closer to resistance, so I get less and less excited about that. Disney, yeah, sure, I'll pull up some Disney for you. So I do have a GAN for this one. Let me just get rid of all the indicators for Disney. And I have it on the monthly chart simply because this has a lot of history. But let's take a look at this blue angle. You can see in the past how important that angle has been, like right here, right here, right here. And I think that's where it's going right now. I think it's going back down there again. So $80 could be a great support, right? But you also have to pay attention that if that ever broke as a support, since this orange level never got back tested, that could be a possibility down into the high 60s as well. So this is a chart that has clearly lost support up here, right? You can see it went to the green level up here, got rejected, and then it's been in a bear market ever since March of 2021. It just lost one support level at a time, and once it loses the blue level and this ARK, you know that it's going to go much lower, and that's exactly what it did. It went much lower, right? It even tried to come back up and retest these highs right here, but it failed short, and then it just rolled over quicker. So I think at least $80 is the target, maybe even down to 68. But yeah, this is not a bullish chart anymore. And if you even put on the monthly Ichimoku, it's saying the same thing, right? It had a bearish, oh, sorry, no, it had a bullish monthly cross right here. Like the conversion line crossed above the baseline. So that is bullish, but that is not the price action you want to see after that happens. So this is essentially going to drift lower until it gets to the 80 maybe. And then by then it can come back up and test the $100 again before maybe it rolls over to the $68 level or so. Yeah. Yeah. And this is the reason why it's been straight down for months, because it's a bearish chart ever since March of 2021, which the GAN kind of predicted it was the top too. So let's see here. One last quick look of the markets. So yeah, QQQ is falling below that 440 level. Got to watch it, guys. Got to watch it for the rest of the week. I want to see it really above 441. That would be good. Maybe even 442. So yeah, everything is just, again, still in a range, right? Everything looks to have found a support, but there's still lots of resistance above. So just got to watch those levels that I talked about. And especially for the QQQ, I want to see it above the 440, 441, 442. We'll see. But until then, have a great rest of the day, guys. Take care.